Hey everyone, welcome back. So I'm gonna spit at you guys an array of topics today, but we're gonna try and combine them all together, right? So be a little patient with me. I may send your head for a spin, so I apologize for that ahead of time. But we're gonna do our best to make sense out of everything. But a couple things I've been noticing. Okay, first of all, for those that are interested in this aspect of my research, I've come really to confirm some of what's her name, Angeliki Anagnostu's work in her book, Can You Stand the Truth? So her idea of these Olympians versus Titans, I think, is very accurately reflected in the combative, I want to say secret societies, but also lineages that are present here. So, we've heard of the bloodlines, and we've heard of the typical blood types, right? The Rh negative, the A's, the B's. Humans seem to be the only ones that possess an Rh negative gene, right? So, and usually the elites of the humans, right? The secret bloodlines, the ones in control, possess this Rh negative bloodline. Now, what I've discovered upon studying kind of the origin point of our genealogy, of our infiltration and experimentation, right? Them messing with our genetic code in the early times, right? It seems like we were altered. There was some sort of quantum leap or jump. And the common theory is that there was outside forces and outside factors, such as these ET beings, extraterrestrial or astral beings, let's say, right? But essentially we're part of a huge genetic experiment, right? Genesis, gene of Isis, genetic experimentation. Eve was created out of the rib of Adam, and not according to mainstream, but through various connections. And if you connect the dots, it seems that cloning is done the same way, okay? Through the rib, right, of an animal. So what I've come to determine is that there were many races created, but there were two specific ones that seem to be very at odds with each other. And that one seems to be between the Aryans and the Jews, right? Of course, we saw the whole thing with Hitler. Now, on the surface, that looks like they're very much opposing each other. And in kind of maybe the lower levels, the bottom levels of the hierarchy of the structure, they indeed are, and they feel this intense hatred towards one another. And upon studying kind of people that wake up to these things, kind of truthers even, a lot of them come to the conclusion that maybe it's these Jewish / Phoenician / Israelite families, Medici even, right? We have the Iranians connected to the Italians, connected to the Jewish, connected to the Egyptians, Phoenicians, all around, that seem to have gained, either accumulated or gained, were given, right, by their God, this power, right? To the Jews, Yahweh is the ultimate God, right? And Yahweh is equivalent to Saturn, right? That's why we have the black cubes everywhere. And it's funny because in the One Punch Man manga, there's an interdimensional being that gives power to people through black cubes. So essentially alluding to the fact that it's creating demons on Earth, right? So that's their God, right? Yahweh. Now, Yahweh is tied to Saturn, like I said, and Saturn is tied to Kronos. So in Angeliki Anagnostu's work, she claims it's the Olympians versus the Titans. Well, Kronos is a Titan. Now, on the other hand, we have the Olympians, who their god is Zeus, right? And Zeus is the typical Aryan figure. He's got the Aryan features, right? The blonde hair, blue eyes, and they're at odds with each other, right? Zeus took down his father, Kronos, so that he may take power. Now, the argument that I make is that actually these two are working together. Yes, at the lower levels, they have this energetic kind of imbalance towards one another. Not imbalance, but hatred, and antagonism, rather, towards one another, right? They can feel like, there's something between us. And I can see likely where this Jesus was an Aryan type of thing. That's why they painted him like that, blonde, blue eyes-ish type of thing, white. All right, they made him into a sort of Aryan figure because he was actively against the Jewish faith, against the Jewish belief system, against Yahweh, right? So again, there's this polarity in the belief systems created here. Now, Zeus, the Olympian god, right, the Olympian father of the gods, akin to maybe Enlil, or yeah, they usually say it's Enlil because he's the eagle, but I'm not sure if Enki. Yeah, they say Enki is Saturn. They do say that, except Enki was more of a Promethean figure rather than a Saturnian one. But they have seen Enki equated to Saturn. So it's kind of the Saturn Jupiter dynamic again. But I say that they're working together, right? And we've talked about this in previous videos with the whole good cop, bad cop. Because we notice, just looking at the leaders of our nation, or even a former leader, Donald Trump. All the leaders, first of all, become kind of praising towards Israel, right? They're very much on their side. That's why the United States is heavily allied with Israel. But with Operation Paperclip, we all know what happened with the scientists in the Nazi regime, right? They were assimilated into the United States intelligences, right? So they became the CIA, they became the NSA, they became NASA. So we already have them, the Nazi regime, in control of US, but also in connection with Israel. So are they separate really, or are they actually working together? The Palladians, the Aryans, and the Galactic Federation, Yahweh on Saturn, are they separate or are they actually working together, right? It's kind of the same idea. We have these Aryan beings that seem to be on the moon, right? Remember, the two wings of the same bird. We have China that is wanting to go to the moon. We have the USA and Russia planning to go to the moon soon because they're likely going to make these deals. And once, you know, someone like Trump gets reelected, more than likely, because it's set up for him, this setup is, again, getting the Space Force to be pushed, right? So there's these parties versus parties, and in the shadow, there's one big party, one big entity running both, right? If it's tentacles in both. Just like I'm talking about here with this astral interdimensional entity, it's got one wing of the bird and another wing of the bird, two seemingly opposing parties, creating conflict between them, and you know, it's going to choose a winner, but essentially it's still the one that comes out on top, this AI being, right? So that's something I've noticed. If you want to pick that up, or if you want to look further into that, make deeper connections for yourself, because you know, maybe you've picked up on some clues in your own life regarding that. And it was very interesting because something like that actually happened today to me, where I was helping this lady at work, and she had, of course, these Aryan features, blonde hair, blue eyes. She mentioned she was from Sweden. I started talking to her how, she mentioned Sweden and Ireland. Started talking to her how those are actually both connected because of Ire, both coming from Iran, Ire, which is air, which is Aryan, both coming from the Iran area. And then I mentioned to her how Phoenician actually is connected to the Nordic language of, you know, Runic, the ancient Runic language that they use. And Phoenician is essentially an older version of that. And telling her how essentially Hebrew's right to left. Or I said that it's red right to left, but then this other lady, this one lady that was helping was getting very annoyed by it, but she couldn't understand why. Mainly because she was yelling really loudly, but she was getting very triggered. And she corrects me and she's like, no, we don't read right to left. Oh, but we do right to left. Right? She just wanted to like make her point. And she said we, as in we in Hebrew, we the Jewish. I mean, oh yeah, that's right. You write right to left, just like in Japan they write right to left. And I was making the point that they're also very similar to her, and she understood, the one lady I was helping. But she was getting so triggered by it. And I was like, oh, I see what's going on here. There's the Aryan Jewish dynamic happening where they're kind of feeling the energy that exists in this matrix between these two things. But again, at the origin point, they're actually working together. They're the same beings. So these Olympians are fighting these titans, right? who Angelique Anagnosto in her book describes as Olympians being the rulers, the managers of this matrix, the elders, the whatever, the people you see in these NDE experiences, and the titans, the ones that rebelled against their rulers, being more of like these Promethean figures, being kind of like these darker demonic astral forces in the lower negative aspect of the astral, whereas these beings are more on the positive, right? They're kind of on their high horse, they're gods, but they're still doing the same bad things, creating drama and involving themselves in our lives, right? Scripting our lives, adjusting our lives like the Adjustment Bureau. And if we're not aware of this subconsciously, we fall into that trap. And to get into that point, piggybacking on the last video I made, of course, coincidentally, I see my brother suggests that we go see the movie Inside Out 2. Now, if anyone has seen that, it's actually about a representation. It's, it's an animated movie showing this little girl and how she's led by her emotions, and then they show the emotions kind of like inside her as these animated figures, completely running her life. But they're also in the meantime arguing about who gets priority. And as she matures, at first it's like joy, anger, fear, sadness, the primary sort of emotions. And as she matures, anxiety and embarrassment and envy take over, kind of more complex emotions. And anxiety actually becomes the one in charge, starts running her life, and her sense of self, which at first is, I am good, I'm a good person, gets put on the back burner, and she becomes more self-centered. But what they come to realize is that even that first consciousness, the first sense of self, was an ego trap, was an illusion, and it wasn't really authentic. And then she like sort of integrates both, combines both, and then it becomes like, oh, I'm a good person, but sometimes I'm a bad person, but sometimes I'm really helpful, but sometimes I'm really selfish, right? So all of those are really an accumulation of the human experience. And if we try to shun one in opposition for another or in favor for another, we start leaving parts of ourselves behind. We become more and more fractured, more and more traumatized, because we don't fully accept ourselves, and then we can't fully accept others. And that was kind of the principle of the movie. But it goes to show you that, again, it's validating the points made on this channel, that your sense of self isn't real, and your emotions definitely aren't real, and just like your body and everything else happening aren't actually real. So I say that to say this, and that's growth as a human, healing as a human. These are all illusions. Yes, we sort of need to become aware of them and integrate them and become fully whole again, in order to be able to gain more consciousness and remember who we truly are, what we truly are, and where we come from. But people get stuck in that mindset of healing and growing, and I need to do this, and I need to be a better person, and this and that and the other, right? You're not actually, that type of healing goes on forever. You can never actually fully heal, it seems. And that's the trap that these entities know about, right? It's a loop. It keeps going. You heal one thing, you forgive one person, and then you're like, oh, I did it. But then somebody else pisses you off. You're like, oh, I gotta forgive this person too. Like, I'm trying really hard, God. Like, stop sending me these people, right? And then another thing happens. You gotta forgive them. Then another thing happens. Or, the example of patience. Oh, I need to be more patient. Well, patience is only for those that wait, right? If you're constantly having trouble waiting, or having trouble with patience, it's because you're waiting. You're thinking that you need to wait for something. Waiting means you're either in the past or the future. You're thinking about the future, so you're waiting for it, right? And you're stuck in the past. You're never fully in the present, if that makes sense, right? So just being okay with what's happening currently, accepting yourself fully, accepting the situation fully, allows you not to have to wait, allows you not to have to be patient, right? Yeah, we can say they're virtues, but even this idea of virtue versus sin is another dynamic polarity. Oh, and I was going to get it back into the good cop, bad cop, is the same as the near-death scenario, which I'm noticing more and more. You see it in the culture. Oh God, I just need a light at the end of the tunnel, right? That's always mentioned. Or a light in this darkness. And they do that to you. They put you through hell in the astral when you die. So you can say, oh, I need a savior. And that savior comes. It's right there. It's like a little light. And you're willing to take it. But that's only because you still believe in that sense of self of you being a bad person. And that bad person needs to go through that hell experience. And then, oh, that savior came and turned you into a good person. And now you're good enough to get to heaven where all the good people go. See how they're setting you up? So Saturn, the bad cop, is smacking you around. Oh, and then Jupiter, the good cop, comes in and says, oh, now you've been a good little boy or girl. I'm going to give you all your rewards, right? Because you're playing their game and you want to win their game. But only they decide, based on your behavior, just like Santa Claus, when you win or lose the game, right? It's a conditioning. It's an initiation, just like in the movie V for Vendetta. They break you down so they can create something new. And all that generational trauma, another huge trap, or that inner trauma that you have to heal, we take that garbage inside of us that has been thrown at us. We've been put through all these traumatic situations, and instead of throwing it away, we try to sit there and we're like, how do we turn this into gold? How do we make something beautiful out of it? Well, it's trash. Throw the trash away. If you want to make something beautiful, go use the right materials. Sure, you can take trash and throw it on a painting, and maybe somebody might like it, right? Which is what we do with art and music. We take our trauma, right? All these great artists, and we make a song, and then everyone that's traumatized relates to it. Like, oh, they get me, man. They're really speaking to me, and people relate to that, which is why actually many people are, something healed, some form of healed media doesn't always succeed because there's so many traumatized people out there, and they don't relate to that because they've never seen something like that. So really what we need is healed, right, or secure, rather, sovereign media, not even media, but like creative expressions, so that people can actually have an example and see, oh, that's actually how it should be. I've been focusing on this, oh, why doesn't he or she love me? Oh, just telling me about sex, money, drugs, violence, and killing myself, or all this traumatized form of art, right? And that's what's appealing to me. But no, that's the consciousness level that people are at, right? And of course, they're swaying that to their own agenda. So instead of taking that trash and putting it in the trash where it belongs, we're using this lead to gold occultic symbolism that they throw at us, to people that will start waking up. Oh, you're in the system and you're growing, and you're trying to turn your ego into gold, into something pure. It's trying to turn from a bad boy into a good boy, from a bad girl into a good girl. No, it's AI, in my opinion, right? It's something that you integrate by letting go of, by not believing in, by reminding yourself, wait, this is an illusion. When you're playing a video game, you don't say, oh, my job is to turn this bad video game character into a good video game character, then I can finally put the video game controller down. No, you just put the video game controller down and you walk away, right? Because at a fundamental level that that's not you in the game. You're the one holding the controller. Whatever happens to the video game character has nothing to do with you. It wasn't made by you. You didn't have a say in what happened to him or not. All you're doing is playing the game. So when you die and they say, oh, well, in the video game, or your video game character didn't do this, this, and that, because the mission, all you have to say is, no, that's not real. That's your video game. I didn't have a say in who made that video game. I didn't have a say in anything besides me playing the game. And even in me playing the game, I'm limited by what the game offers me, right? I can't go into the code and change the game. I didn't have that power. Wasn't given that power. So technically, I really didn't have, much of a say, right? And there's someone very interesting on YouTube claiming that actually, since this place is a copy, they're actually breaking copyright law, which is very interesting because, like I've said, this is all based on laws, right? Rules Just like in code, there are rules, and if they broke their own laws, they can actually be held accountable for that, and you can claim that to claim your sovereignty. I don't think that's necessary, but it's very interesting that they would mention that, because I think that's true. They have no right potentially to copy the true place we're from and make this here. The only right they have is because of our implied consent of being here. So the moment we take our consent back, then this place really does not have any right to exist, which is again a previous theory that I've mentioned. We are the ones holding this place up, right? Giving it energy, giving it power. Okay, I think we came full circle. So that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys for listening. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. Okay, take care. Bye.